coming up, and if you cheer really loud, you might hear yourselves. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. So, when I was growing up, my first boyfriend who worked at the record store, Donald, he loved Tiffany so much. And he had all the records. He went to Japan and he bought all the special Japanese versions. And he really got me to love her. He really got me to understand she's gonna Hold an Old Friend's Hand, my favorite track by her. So I'm excited to do this for you. I'm excited to talk to Tiffany because one of the best things we do on the series, on this cruise, right, on the sea, is we have intimacy. You get to see the shows in a small place and you get to hear from the artists themselves. So let's do it. Let's hear from Miss Tiffany. All right.
Hello, everyone. It's funny that you talk about Hold an Old Friend's Hand. I'm on a tour right now, so we're doing the UK, we've just been in Boston, Chicago. I've been everywhere, man, like for real. And I was talking about Hold an Old Friend's Hand, and I was talking about re-recording the greatest hits, which is happening now. We're gonna put it out. We're trying for the end of the year, but I want to connect it with a bunch of string of dates. It needs to be done right, I feel. So probably next year, and we'll go out and tour behind it. So we're going to rework some of your favorite songs, take just a little liberties, make them extended, take a little bit more time than 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Some will be just like the record. But as I'm going through all these songs, I'm getting everybody's feedback. What's your favorite ones? And there might have to be a greatest hits too, because there's just not enough room on one record. But thank you. It's a nice problem to have. Thank you guys. But I'm sitting here listening to all these songs now as my producer he's my partner as well. So he's my everything. So it's like studio all the time in my house. I'm upstairs cooking with Let's Food with Tiffany, which is my cooking club. And I'm hearing Johnny's Got the Inside Moves or Hold an Old Friend's Hand. But as I'm hearing these songs, I'm like, Hold an Old Friend's Hand. I'm looking and listening to all the lyrics. And another year and I'm still here. The grass just will not grow on this old hill. That is not funny now. At my age, I'm like, Johnny's got the inside moves. Johnny shouldn't have had any of those moves at 14. Spanish eyes for heroes and virgins, baby. Life gets so urgent, baby. I'm like, where were my parents? What is happening? Because people, over the years they've said, I wasn't allowed to listen to you because you were kind of edgy. And I was like, maybe. I think Rollo now's a little cheeky, a little suggestive, but I didn't put it together. That, there's some things going on at my album.
It's kind of like the song Mickey when Tony Basil's like, I'll take it like a man.
Yeah.
And I grew up and I was like, that line? Really? I was screaming that at 6 years old.
We were always edgy 80s kids, weren't we?
Gen X. Gen X. So tell me about...
Sorry?
Sweet Child of Mine.
Sweet Child, that's one of my favorite songs to sing.
I heard you.
Cover it,
Yes.
please.
Oh, well, thank you. I might. That would be awesome. Definitely. I'll have to take that to my producer.
Yeah.
For sure. Thank you.
Tell everybody about it.
So I wanted to ask you about recording those songs and getting ready to put this greatest hits. It's more than a greatest hits, it's a revisiting of those songs. One of my favorite recordings of all time is when Joni Mitchell went back and did Both Sides Now when she was much older. How does it feel? I think when we think of Tommy James and the Shondells and we think of I Think We're Alone Now, you think of that as the ultimate teenage song, right? How does it feel now when you're thinking about, and even it's funny that you said that about Hold an Old Friend's Hand, because Could Have Been was a very mature song for you to have such a big hit with.
It was, and that was one that I fought to sing because it showed that I could sing. Because you might not know, I started off in country music actually at 9 years old. I opened up for Mickey Gilley and Johnny Lee and worked with Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis. So there's a whole past of Tiff that I'm excited to kind of put in a book eventually. I've been starting to write my book as well. Because when Little Richard passed away, I was like, that's really cool, that was my past. And I don't often think about the past. You know, I'm always in the present, which is hard enough, and thinking about, you know, what I can do better and what I want to do, you know, with dreams. So when I was kind of thinking about that, there's a lot of people that don't really know my past, that I started out in country music with Hoyt Axton. He sang and recorded and wrote a song called Joy to the World for Three Dog Night. He was the first one to actually help me in my career. My parents didn't know anything about the music business, but my dad was military and he was a go-getter. So he was like, if this is what you want to do, we'll find a way, you know. And I also drove my family nuts. I didn't stop singing. So literally, I'm so glad it worked out for them because I beat them down all the time. I was singing from the morning till the night, and my grandfather would always say, oh, babe, let's see what Mimi has in the kitchen for you. I'm sure there's a cookie in there. Something to shut me up. So whenever I sing good now after stage, I'm all, I fancy cookies or sweets. But yeah, I mean, I was just kind of born to do this. No one in my family was an entertainer. And so, you know, getting the record deal at 14, I didn't feel like an old soul, but, you know, I felt like this was what I was meant to do. So when it really happened, you know, and it became #1 and I started touring, I mean, I really was just a little girl at 9 years old, spinning around her room, pretending she was Stevie Nicks at that time. And for it to really happen, it was like, oh my gosh. And then traveling to other countries and people knowing about me and knowing that I loved, you know, olive pizza, and then wearing jean jackets, and it really made an impression on my life. It was bigger than I ever thought it was going to be. And I Think We're Alone Now is just this amazing song that is timeless. I've done it ska, I've done it punk rock, I've done it rock, I've done it acoustic, I've done it country. And it's a well-written song. It stands up to the test of time. And there's something about it that makes people feel good. So I'm really, you know, thrilled all the time. People ask me, are you tired of singing that song? And I never get tired of singing that song.
Have you ever met Tommy James and talked to him about that song?
I have. Tommy James is lovely. He's wonderful. I've met him many times, and he's just always
thank you for making me so much money.
Well, he doesn't say exactly that, but there's a big smile on his face when I say that.
I love that you said you performed it in all those different deliveries, all the different genres, because I think if people think of Tiffany as a pop girl from 1986, 1987, I saw the metal chick last night out in the audience at Faster Pussycat. Did anyone see Tiffany dancing last night at Faster Pussycat? She was going off, and you were loving it?
I was loving it, yeah. Well, they're buddies of mine, actually. So Ace Von Johnson has played on the current record, Shadows. I also have Tracy Guns on there as well, so very honored to have that. Johnny Martin, who has been with LA Guns as well. Gosh, let's see, Sam Bam, he's out with me on the road here and there all last year, and he will be again soon. So yeah, they're my buddies. So I had to come and watch them rock out. They're just amazing performers, you know. I love Faster Pussycat, and I'm an LA girl originally. I don't know if people know that, so a lot of
exactly what I was going to
Sunset
ask you.
Boulevard,
If you were a
Rainbow.
Sunset Strip person, did you
Yeah.
like the crew? Did you like all that good stuff coming out of LA at that time?
Well, it's the Rainbow that gave me my love for olive pizza. So yeah, if you know the Bow, you know they have really good food there. So I love my pizza, and I started going there when I was like 17, hanging out, and just, we know what you mean? Yeah, see, definitely. The food is amazing, right? And the atmosphere. I mean, I was always into rock music, but again, yes, people associated me in pop music. So I would go to a lot of these conventions, and all the rockers would make fun of me and do try to scare me, and I was like, okay, yeah, cool. So, that's what I listened to, AC/DC, Led Zeppelin. These were all the posters on my wall, as well as country music. I love Emmylou Harris. She's a big influence on me. Tammy Wynette. I mean, that was where I started. But as I started to grow up, and being from East LA, from Los Angeles, country was not cool. So my parents were putting me into these, community shows where we'd raise funds for disabilities or whatever, and of course all the local people would come out, and a lot of my friends would come, and then they'd make fun of me. And I had an older cousin who was listening to rock and roll. She listened to Fleetwood Mac and Heart and Pat Benatar, and of course I heard it on the radio as well. But if you had an older sister or brother, for me it was a cousin, I got to sneak into her room and play her vinyls. So when she was off with her friends, my aunt would take care of me, and I always she called me Pumpkin. So she was all, Pumpkin, don't scratch anything, okay? Because can't save you if you do that. But I would go in there, and I would play her vinyls, and I would sit on her waterbed, and take it all in. And that's when you framed all, you remember you framing all the vinyls and all the liner notes. I used to read all the liner notes, which I still love liner notes. I like to know what the band was thinking and why they wrote the song and where they recorded it and all that stuff. So Stevie Nicks just really jumped out to me. I just loved everything about her. And that's when I wanted to change my sound a little bit. And I went to my mom and I said, do you think that I could start doing some Fleetwood Mac? And she was like, okay. So then that was the big turn in Tiffany. I was addicted ever since then. So I started doing, more Fleetwood Mac stuff. And if it was country, I did like Lacey J. Dalton, even some Johnny Cash. So there was an edge developing then.
There's always been an edge to Tiffany. I really do think there's always been an edge to you. I think part of it, as a Gen X girl, I remember hearing that you were emancipated from your parents at such a young age. To me, that said, wow, she's taking control of her life.
Well, it was a mess, to be honest with you. I don't think I was ready for that wild ride in the publicity and in the public. I came from a home that has issues, like a lot of people. And, my mom was an alcoholic, and a lot of my family were alcoholics, but very good people. And they just handled their issues wrong. So there was a lot of drama in my house. And, when I became famous, I really couldn't handle touring and all the responsibility that was put on me, and then going back home to a home that was dysfunctional. It was just too much for me. And at that time, being young, and throughout the years with my stepdad, my mom had kind of put into my head he was the problem. And we ended up reconciling our relationship, and he was lovely before he ended up passing away. But at that time, a kid gets in their head, well, you're the problem. And I didn't really understand that my mom had a drinking problem. But years later, she got sober. Very proud of my mother. She's since passed away. And my family is very healthy and whole now. So a lot of good has come through the bad, but the next generation, we're all really healthy and stuff. But yeah, there was a lot of hard knocks in the beginning, and so the emancipation really was me wanting to go and live with my grandmother, because that was stable. I could tour, I could rest, and I just really needed that at the time. And again, my mom going through a lot of, dependency issues, I was her rock. I was kind of like an old soul. So she didn't want to let me go. And so my stepdad kind of fought for it. and it became this big lawsuit, and of course your attorneys want to keep it going so they can make money, of course. But you know, at time, I'm 15, 16, I didn't know that. I wasn't prepared for it all to be in the paper or hurt my mom or tell my family's secrets, but that's kind of what happened. And it was a very hurtful time for a long time. It really estranged my parents with me, and you know, I went off and got my own property, and I did end up living with my grandmother, and I did what was right for me to keep going on to be, you know, I guess Tiffany. But later on, when I had my son, is when my mom and I kind of healed our relationship, because you know, she was sober by then, and she was an amazing grandmother, and you know, full circle again. So I'm very blessed to have that be the outcome.
That is so great, right? Because we've always heard the beginning of the story, and now we know how you resolved it, which is great. So this is not your first 80s cruise.
No, I did the first one.
Who was here? Who was here? Anyone here at the first one? All right.
My people.
So the great 80s cruise experiment, Tiffany came aboard and you loved it.
Yeah, it was on the Holland. Remember the little tiny boat? And the stage was underneath the water. So when I went backstage, it was like, there was like all these sounds, and I was like, what is that? They were like, oh, because we're below the water here, so it's the pressure. And I was like, you'll get used to it. I was like, no, I won't be getting used to that. I'll be doing my show and going upstairs. Thank you very much.
So you're playing tomorrow night, which is prom night.
Yes.
Woo! It's also Fat Tuesday. Mardi Looking at the colors of the lights, that's Mardi Gras right
yeah,
there.
we are
right
ready.
There. So did you bring a prom dress?
I didn't bring a prom. I didn't even go to my own prom, guys. Okay, you know.
You didn't go to your own prom.
I didn't go to my own prom. No, I didn't. I was on the road. I missed a lot of that kind of stuff, but then I gained so many other things. I did go to my graduation, and I remember going back, because by that time they had taken me out of Norwalk High, where I grew up. I was really on the road, so I had a tutor who was my drummer. And he was a certified teacher. Backstory, I was out on the road and not going to school. I'm going to tell on everybody here. And my mom wasn't, you know, thrilled about that, but my manager was just kind of like, oh. And Rolling Stone called to do a big article on me, and they wanted to do like behind the scenes, a day in the life of Tiffany. And then they said, and you know, her teacher and her schooling, and my manager was like, what? So he couldn't call to get a teacher because that would totally blow it. And my drummer, who was a certified teacher, was hearing all this panic, and he said, look, I'll step in and I'll do it and I'll save you guys, but she's really gonna have to start studying with me. So I still know him today. He's my buddy. I still know my original band members, which I love them. They're my family. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I graduated. But I ended up going to a small school and graduating from Leffingwell. And I wasn't even there. Like I said, I was on the road. So when graduation came, I did come in, I took my pictures, I walked with my class, and all these people who never really liked me before were like, girl, will you come to my party? And I'm like, no. So I did the road dog thing. I went to Denny's, okay?
Well, now you get to do the prom at least.
I get to do it with you guys. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I won't be wearing my traditional prom dress. I'm gonna wear something sparkle and fringy and a little bit of glamour, you know, sparkled, like a mermaid hit Stevie Nicks, okay? That's what I'm doing.
So last year we had Debbie Gibson on the boat.
Yes, my buddy. Yes.
And I love her as well. And I know that the press does that thing where they pit two women against each other always, you know, Madonna versus Janet Jackson. And it's just a thing to get headlines. I know that you guys are good friends now. Were you friends from the jump?
No, because we never got a chance to be around each other. I think it was something that the labels wanted. They wanted to keep up that gossip and all of that. That was really generated by the press. And so we would see each other, but it would be on the red carpet, quickly take a picture, and then exit, go our own ways. We would leave little notes here and there like, oh, this place has a really great gym, or, you know, cute little cafe down the street, something like that. But it wasn't until later we had mutual friends because her dancers moved to LA. And I was like around a lot of the early Living Color dancers, like J-Lo and all of them. I just was in that, LA was all about, you know, acting lessons, dance lessons. Before I got my record deal, I was doing a lot of that. So I started off in country music. Then when people said, oh, this is what you really want to do, well, you'll have to do dancing, and you'll have to do modeling, and you'll have to do acting. So we were doing all of it, which I loved. But I met a lot of people, and I was going out on commercials and doing all these things with like Fergie, Ricky Martin, Mario Lopez. The list goes on and on and on of all these people who actually became really famous. So I was really in a great group of people, but we were just kids going on calls and auditioning and stuff. So later on, a lot of those people were working with Deb, and that kind of brought us a little closer. But what really sealed the deal was Mega Python versus Gatoroid. Saving the world for everybody, okay? Yeah, I'm a big, huge sci-fi fan. And when I got the call to be a part of Mega Piranha first, I jumped at the chance. And I loved it. Of course, my son, I have a son who's 32. His name's Elijah. And that was like our thing. On Saturday morning, we just hang out, make breakfast, and watch sci-fi. So then, of course, when I get the call to do Mega Piranha, I told him, I said, oh, Elijah, I'm going to be on the Sci-Fi Channel. He goes, you're going to be on the Sci-Fi Channel? Like, my friends are going to see it? And I was like, yeah. He's like, oh. And then we didn't have any more Saturday mornings. But I did that one. I loved it. And then they pitched to me, what if you and Deb did something together? And that's how Mega Piranha, or Mega Python versus Gatoroid happened. And I thought it was amazing. So Deb and I had a lot of time just kicking around the set, you know? And we just started talking as girls about our lives and women and our relationships and how's it going. We never had that opportunity before. And, you know, that's when we became friends. So it was a good thing. It was, you know, I don't know if we'll do any more sci-fi together. We always wink about it. We loved that fight scene, though. Both of us wanted to do more, you know. We knew everybody was really baiting for that. So we really just cheesed it up and had a good time with it.
If somebody didn't see that, who wins?
Oh, I think we both die. But I believe in miracles, so we could come back. I mean, I'm a tomboy, so, you know, there was times I was like throwing Deb all over, and I was like, ooh, girl, sorry. Ooh, girl, sorry. And she's like, oh, go on. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I don't think there was any winning, really. We both got eaten in the end.
So this is the 80s cruise, and what we do is basically check the present day at the door, right? You know, I know some of us cheat and look at some phone stuff, but, you know, we try to pretend that it's not past 1989, December 31st, right? Your life is like that probably a lot. Like, you probably indulge in the 80s a lot because you were an icon in the 80s and you sing those songs still. Do you have an affinity for this time period?
I think it's one of the most fun time periods. I mean, there's something about the 80s, right? It's just, there's just a feeling, and I can't really even describe it. It's more than just music. It's, you know, again, when I do 80s shows, people come in and they're just ready to have fun. They're open people. I don't know how else to say it. The music for me, I'm a huge fan when I see all these bands playing. I just want to be a part of it. So, I'm like taking it all in. It's my childhood as well. So I really enjoy it. And I love that everybody's still doing it. I love, thank you guys for coming out and seeing us and being part of the 80s cruise, supporting live music all over, supporting our shows, because I travel from the UK to all over the US, and it's really great to be a part of like Belinda Carlisle, Howard Jones, Tapao, all these people that, again, I just love. So it's a great time for me when I do these multi-bills because it brings out the kid in me. But yeah, there's something about the 80s music that is just, people want to just literally just shake everything off in the current climate, I feel, and just go back to an easier time. I do live a lot in the 80s world, but come on, we've got a lot of social media now. I'm like having to do all of that. And as much as I love that so I can communicate with you, it has become really hectic. It's overcomplicated in everything. And there was just, the 80s, it was a lot simpler. You want to talk to somebody, pick up the phone. It was a lot of that. I love Facebook because I travel so much that I can see people. If you use it the right way, I can look at my family and know if they're good, what's going on, be a part of their life, my friends, my fans as well. But again, I think there's just such a bombardment now with a lot of the other stuff going on that makes you more want to run into the 80s. I mean, I literally put on 80s music to get ready because it just makes me happy. I'm like, yeah, do my thing. So I think it's a good thing, and I'm glad everybody's here to celebrate that.
Yeah, me too. It's the music. That's what I always say. The music brings us together. It really.
And I want to say, Let's Food with Tiffany. If you don't know, I'm a foodie. I've got a food club. You can go to tiffanytunes.com and join the food club if you'd want. It's food adventures from my house to feeding the band on the road to working with high-end chefs to mom and pop places, which are my favorite. But we're just growing more. I've got a cookbook out with my friend Tom Frim, who's in Nashville. He is an engineer at Blackbird Studio. He's done a lot with Martina McBride. So I'm getting lucky now in connecting the dots because I've done a lot with Food Network. And I do have a cookbook coming out at the end of this year with Chef Alicia. She's out of Vegas. She's a celebrity chef there. And we are going to be zhuzhing up, and I do mean that word, zhuzhing up, making adult and legit all your after-school special foods, all your 80s favorites. Yes, they're going to be plated in the adult way. So that is what the cookbook is about. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're having fun with recipes from all over the world. What were your favorite to-go foods? Your simplified foods, and whatever it is. And we're making them a little bit more presentable for the adult world. So I'm really excited about that. Yeah.
Us latchkey kids coming home and making ourselves mac and cheese. I love, you just mentioned Nashville. So you moved to Nashville, you live there now when you're not on the road. And I feel like it's given you this space to have reinvention. Like it's not a town that's, every place is about age, let's put it that way. But Nashville is more forgiving than LA, than other places. I feel like it's really about the work there. It's about the song, the work, bringing your cookbook to the forefront. Tell me about moving to Nashville and what it was like in the beginning, establishing a community.
Well, I've been in Nashville for on and off since I was like 10, because we went there the first time to record all the demos, working with Hoyt Axton and May Axton, his mother. So I've been flirting with Nashville for a long time. Moved there early on in the 90s when everybody was like, go to Nashville, because I wanted to songwrite. I didn't get to write on the first albums, and it was something that I always wanted to do. And my producer at the time just wasn't open to it. And so in the background, I was always just writing poetry and messing around. I don't play an instrument. And but I'm a lyricist, so I was always writing things. And of course, the people that I look up to are all songwriters. So that was kind of just in me. I just wanted to do that. So I thought, I'm going to go to Nashville and I'm going to learn to songwrite. So that's what I did in the early 90s. My son was young and I went there. And of course you go, to Nashville, and at the time that they were like, was this for an album? Or, was it a Tiffany project? And I was like, no, this is just to learn. I just want to be a part of your community. So I was very lucky that they embraced me that way. And, I learned form. I learned a lot of different things that maybe wasn't necessary for my songs. So I moved back to Los Angeles and did the Color of Silence album. But that was really after, which became a critically acclaimed by Billboard, but that was really after falling on my face in Nashville a little bit. I would go to these writing meetings and they would say, oh, it's Tiffany. So, and I wasn't ready for that yet. And I was writing with all of these great writers and not really bringing it yet. So, through that experience, I grew. I was just even more determined to become a writer. So I came back to LA and started working with my band members because I felt very comfortable that I could cut my teeth and fall on my face, and really great songs came from that. Like, I don't know if you guys heard the Color of Silence album, but it was my first writing experience. And then to get a critically acclaimed for Billboard, I was like, oh, okay, we're on to something. So now being in Nashville, it's great because I am known in the community as a songwriter. And then Tiffany, which has always been my goal. I live out in the country. I'm a hippie dippy doo. So, when you don't see me like this, I'm literally ponytail and sweats. And just running, I love nature. I love to be a part of Nashville, but it is becoming such a big city and I'm always in big cities, that I really just love the outskirts of Nashville. I love that I can just be in my garden, doing my plants, writing songs, taking in nature. I think you have to have a balance. For a long time living in a city, I would be on the road, and then I would try to overcommit when I was in LA. And I'd be going to dinners and going to meetings, and you just get burnt out. And then you get really aggravated, and you're like, oh, I did this to myself. I booked everything. So I actually can have control to say, you know what? When I'm on the road, it is kind of hectic. Things change. I don't really have control of my schedule. And I want to be fresh for that. So I need to make my personal life a little bit more chill. And I think that's what keeps me in the game a little bit. So that's why I love Nashville, amongst the music, of course. But really, it's the environment.
Wow. I'm loving listening to your journey, because it's like you come on these cruises and we know a moment in time from these artists, and to hear about the journey and that you're still going. I mean, that Madonna said her greatest accomplishment is that she's still around.
Well, yes, definitely. I've made jokes about it. I'm like, well, it's mostly when people take pictures, and you have backstage sometimes is not glamorous. And especially sometimes in these little clubs, which I love so much. But people go, oh, can I take a picture? And it's bad lighting against a wall that looks like prison or rehab. I'm a child star. I don't need it in the social media. I don't need it. So I'm always can we turn this around or put something else in the background? Yeah, it's a different kind of life. But I think, again, for me, there's something about the songs, even though I was saying how mature they were, and they are. But there was something as well about a lot of my fans. I've often wondered, what was it? It's not just my voice, and it's not just the mall tour. It's not just I Think We're Alone Now. But there was a lot of things going on in our lives, in our childhoods. And I think that sometimes those songs, Could Have Been and Should Have Been Me and All This Time, there was something deeper that, a lot of times we didn't talk about. And later on, as I've done meet and greets, people go, that song really got me through. I was having a really hard home life. or I was really having a really hard breakup, and it was very serious at the time for me, and your songs carried me through. And that is so meaningful to me because that's how I feel about a lot of artists that I had to go in my room and listen to and just escape. And, so yeah, now to say I've made it, it's been 30 something years. I'm still here. I'm writing music. I'm living my dream, still rocking out with you guys. I think for every artist, that is still here doing what they love is just a blessing and a success story, really.
It totally is. Are you, besides Faster Pussycat, who else do you want to see on the cruise? Who are you excited for?
Oh, pretty much everybody. I'm torn, you look at the thing and I'm like, that's during my show. That's not good, right? Tonight, Warrant. I'm going to go see Warrant. And let's see, Adam Ant, of course. Tapow, of course, because Carol Decker is like a fellow redhead. I love her.
See the shirt down here?
Oh, there you go.
Dibs on
We're
the redhead.
feisty, though. It's a wild ride, I'll tell you now. There's multiple things going on in here. Yeah.
All right, so we would love to take a few audience questions if you guys are into it. All right, come on up here.
Tiffany, one quick question. You were talking about Stevie Nicks. What is your favorite Stevie Nicks song?
Oh, Landslide. I took my love and I took it down, right? It's amazing. It makes me cry as soon as I hear it.
Whoever wants to ask Tiff a question, can you come on over here and let's line up? It'd be great. Here you go.
Tiffany, this is kind of like a two-part question. You probably know me very well. And okay, the first part we like to find out is that recently you said you got engaged.
I did, yes. I did get engaged.
That's great. And I want to know, all right, so remember 2023, 80s in the Sand? It's like you just came and went, you just barely even connected.
Well, I was there the whole time, though. I don't know. We just didn't get a chance to hang out. It was a quick one, though, wasn't it?
Yes.
It seemed like it was only for a weekend. For me, it was only for a weekend, I think. But yeah, it was really quick. I mean, we landed. I did that one show, but I was hanging around. I got to go in the pool. That infinity pool was amazing, and I got to see some of the other artists. But yeah, it was a quick one. Sorry we didn't get to say hello at that time, but we're rocking this one, so we're gonna get to say hello.
Can I be your proud date?
My fiance might be a little. He's also in my band, so you don't want to really rock the boat on that one.
Okay, so you're engaged. Is this a new thing?
I am engaged. Well, no, it's a long engagement. We want to get married in Italy, and we haven't had a chance to get there and take time off. And he's Mark Alberici. He's also my producer.
Yay!
He's the lead guitar player in my band. So, I mean, we want to get married, but we're already committed. So
Next
we want to do
year,
it
80s
right.
cruise
Yeah.
in Italy.
We want to do Italy and have some time to hang out there. And to be honest with you, right now, we're just loving what we're doing with the opportunities that we're given in music. So eventually we'll get there. But yes, that's who I'm engaged to.
Tiffany, my question for you is about your creative process. When you go to write or you go to develop music, talk about that.
It comes in many forms for me. It could be after an experience for myself where I'm feeling like that was really challenged, and I'll say something and I go, ooh, that was a good lyric, and I'll often say, notes in my phone. It sometimes comes after talking to people, even meet and greets or hearing people's stories, or being on the road. I like to people watch. and I just observe, and you kind of wonder what's going on in people's lives as you see things, or sometimes you see things that you think are beautiful, or you see things that you kind of go, that's really sad. And it just strikes a chord. We're storytellers, songwriters are storytellers, so I'm always taking in all of these stories. And then usually, there's always music being played in my home because, of course, Mark has the studio downstairs. He loves music. He's listening to music every day. He's creating every day. And again, for me, sometimes it's just me listening to the radio. There's been a lot of songs that I've written off of thinking that I knew the lyrics to other people's songs. And I'm like, that's not the lyric, but it was a good one. I'm keeping it, man. I'm keeping it.
Hi, Tiffany. I just want to say thank you for being so sweet and for critiquing me singing your song on the first cruise. And 2 questions I always like to ask, because everybody knows.
No more.
Do you remember what where you were when you first heard yourself on the radio, and how you felt, and what you bought with your first check?
Oh, okay. I remember the first time I heard myself on the radio, I was in Norwalk, my hometown, and I was in my mom's car, which was really loud. It was like this beater car, and I was like, but I was always on the radio, like doing stuff, and she was always going, Tiffany, please, honey, turn it down. Please turn it down. And I remember I was like blasting the radio, and then dun 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 dun, and I was like, ha ha, we can't turn that down now, can we? And we were going to the grocery store, so I was like riding around Norwalk, California, listening to my own tunes, and I was like, that's pretty cool.
That's amazing. And Ziva, you need to do a book with all the answers.
And the first thing I bought, actually, I bought a leather jacket. This is the first thing I bought with my money, yes. I was at the mall, hello, and I saw this brown leather jacket, and I went, that's cool. And my manager was like, you can afford that now. So I went in, and I purchased it, and the girl didn't know who I was. And it was kind of in like one of these high-end stores a little bit. And so I was like looking at all the jackets, like my dad had taught me before. Don't just buy the first thing you see, look around, all that kind of stuff. Because we used to put clothes on layaway. Like that's how I got my summer clothes, Zodies, guys, Zodies. And so my parents were always like, take your time, because Jordache jeans, we're buying 1 pair. And my Vans, I had to have your Vans, of course. So I was like taking my time, and the lady goes, are you gonna buy something? I don't think this is the right store for you. And I was like, oh, I don't like that. So I remember grabbing that jacket and walking myself up to the counter going, there you go, there you go. Because you should never judge anyone, right?
Like a scene from Pretty Woman. Hi, Tiffany. We made it back from the beach.
Yes.
So I would like to know who your favorite artist or band that you've ever toured with is. And I know you're very nice, but if you don't mind answering, who's your least favorite?
I'm going to pick somebody dead. No. My favorite, oh gosh, you're gonna make me do that. That I've toured with. Well, I mean, obviously the New Kids on the Block.
I was hoping you'd say that. I saw that tour. It was amazing.
And I really don't have any, I mean, truthfully, honestly, I really don't have anybody that I've had any, moments with. There really hasn't been. I've been really fortunate to be around great people. If there was somebody that I didn't get on with, or, again, somebody that thought that I was just some young singer that didn't take me serious, I just kind of held my own and just went off to the side. I've never had anybody be really mean to me or say awful things or be too dramatic. I'm from LA, so I kind of expect it. Like, you know, my own kind can be a big deal. So when I see a big deal walking, I just go the other way.
So you were at the beach with Tiff? Tiffany, tell
Yes.
us about that exciting
We were having a
sing-along.
blast. So there's another lady here that coaxed me to get into the ocean because it was like, hey girl. I was like, I got it, and I was like, oh, cool. But she's from Seattle, so there you go. Finally, we were in there swimming, hanging out. And then, yeah, before I left, I was just like sunning because, you know, I'm like waiting to dry off a bit. And the DJ played my song. So everybody was rock. I got to film all of you guys out there singing my song and rock it out. And then, yeah, then I came back, and by the time we got on the boat, I had like 30 minutes to get ready. Hence the crimped hair. It works out for bad, you know, for bad hair days, girls. You know, I was like, what am I gonna do with this? And I was like, crimper. Ding, 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 ding.
First, great show in Sarasota before the cruise. And then secondly, as an 80s icon, how is your newer music received today? Like, Shadows is such an awesome song, but I never heard it until I was getting ready for the cruise. Like, did it get play on rock stations? Did it end up on the Spectrum and
It
stuff?
did on some, actually. I mean, you know, a lot of it, again, is like social media and your numbers and all these other things now about radio and just the business in itself. So, yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing for me is just to keep doing shows. Because I'm, you know, growing in audience, and that's most important. You could go and buy your numbers and all of that kind of jazz and find quick ways, but that doesn't mean bodies in the seats. So when I do live shows, it doesn't help me if people aren't real. I want a real audience. I want people who know the new music, love the new music, which I feel that we're accomplishing. So that's amazing, because like these last run of shows, you know, we're doing Shadows, we're doing Waste of Time, and everybody's out there singing the lyrics, and I'm like, oh, hello, okay, we're getting somewhere. Yeah, I think it's always something when you do new music, you just have to persevere through it. It's always exciting thing because you want to show your audience your new music and where you're at now, and of course their bond with you is the hits. But you know, it's you feel a little naked at first because you're like, oh, and of course venues or, you know, all these, they go, I don't want that, I don't want this, you know, radio, you got to push them, all this kind of stuff. So it's always a big push to get new things out there. But I think with fans, you know, again, if they see the love that you have for your songs, especially through live shows, then that's the connection again. And so that's why I just think, you know, for me, live performing is really it. I'm a live performer. I'm going to keep going, and we're going to keep having these moments, hopefully.
Hey, Tiff. First of all, I want to thank you for being so personal and letting us get to know you.
Thank you,
at
babe.
a totally different level. So, as a fellow foodie,
Yes.
I want to get the most bang for my buck. So I have a shit ton of questions. You can answer all or any of them.
Okay.
What is your favorite cuisine? What is your favorite dish? Who's your favorite chef? And I like to rock out when I'm cooking. So what is your favorite song when you're cooking?
Ooh, my favorite song when I'm cooking. Okay, well, my favorite chef is Chef Alicia currently, but Guy Fieri is somebody that's my mentor because I did Food Network with him, and he encouraged me to do CHOP, and he was very much, I have not done the show, but I did make it to the final, and, you know, he was like, you really have a heart for cooking. Like, there's something here. And that meant a lot to me. So I would love to regroup with him. I haven't talked to him lately, but it was his encouragement. Because he gave me some hard tasks. He didn't just throw easy stuff. So, you know, when I was being judged by all the different chefs, they were talking amongst themselves. You'll see it on the show, and they were like, she's really cooking like chef stuff. Like, he didn't give her an easy walk. And I was like crazy. I was like, what? Arancini? I've never made an arancini. But yeah, and my favorite song to cook to, oh, gosh, that's a hard one. Well, maybe Natalie Merchant. The Tiger Lily album is one of my favorites. So I'm really into that. I've been listening to that more and more, but it's always a go-to for me. And my favorite cuisine, I like all food, girl. But probably my favorite cuisine would be maybe Lebanese food because I'm Lebanese. So, and I say that a lot because it reminds me of my sitto, my grandma. So it's just good. It's good memories. It's good food, but it reminds me of my family getting together and the memories that we created. I think that's for everybody, right? And then my go-to all the time is congee. It's a rice porridge. You can top it with anything. I learned that dish when I was in Singapore. It's throughout Malaysia, Indonesia. So yeah, it's my favorite. I make a lot of congee. It's my thing. Yeah.
I heard you were talking before about walking around your house singing all songs. I want to tell you that I was singing your songs and Debbie Gibson's when I was a young kid as well.
Thank you.
Probably your age, not a young kid. So I have two questions for you. The first is, are you a self-taught singer before you made it? Did you have vocal coaches and things like that? And the second is, did you have an 80s teen crush? And if so, who was it at the time?
I did. My teen crush was Eddie Van Halen. He was my wall. That was it. Valerie, I was like, what? But I do love her now. She's amazing. And no, I've always been self-taught. I later on ran into some vocal problems because, again, I listened to like belters, again, as well as Stevie Nicks. I love Janis Joplin. And so I was learning, just how to belt it out all the time. And I started to have some issues with my throat. So I did go to a vocal coach when I was about 14. And he taught me a different method, which he actually immediately goes, oh no, don't listen to rock singers. Listen to gospel singers. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I immediately started listening to like, Sherilyn Scott, I believe her name is, Patti LaBelle, a lot of gospel music, Manhattan Transfer, totally switched me a little bit, and I found this upper register, which is what I sing through now. I don't sing through the chest, it's all here. And he taught me these really silly like exercises to get on all fours, breathe through your because it immediately makes you breathe through your diaphragm. And holding the book, and doing like that for a minute and going bzzz, and trying to breath. So it's all about the breath control. And that's why, like, for me, if I'm tired or, anything like that, it really strains your throat. Sleep is like the best. And if you know me, I don't sleep much. I'm always doing a lot of social media at 4 or 5. So that's why the typos are there in the morning, because I don't sleep and I don't know why. It drives me nuts. So I kind of roll with it now. I just know that's going to happen. So I do take naps. Yes, I do. And but that's the biggest thing. If you're not like fully rested, you tend to strain, and you tend to like do this, or if you're stressed, your back gets tight and you're not taking those big breaths. So you'll see me before a show, or you probably won't, but because it's not glamorous. But I'm like stretching over chairs and I'm on all fours. It's not glamorous, but I am just like bringing that air, because when that is there, I can sing like there's no tomorrow. Thank you.
Hi, Tiffany.
Hi, babe.
I'm friends with an old bandmate of yours who insisted that I give you his love, Matt Avery.
Oh,
And
yeah, Matt's amazing.
he's a great guy, and he's still playing, and doing great. But more than 2 or 3 times a year, he will talk about you and the times that he spent with you and touring with you. But especially for him in his long career, highlight of everything he's done is performing on The Tonight Show with you. And not just The Tonight Show, but the legendary version with Johnny Carson. And he is so proud of that, as anybody would be. But I'm curious if you have a singular moment that, it doesn't have to be back, in the 80s. It might have been 2 years ago, 2 months ago, or back then. But do you have a singular performance, appearance, concert that you kind of look at as, man, that was the most exciting for you?
Farm Aid for me was pretty amazing. I got the chance to perform with John Mellencamp, and so we flew down there, and I had a rehearsal with him. He was lovely, and they had actually given me a song to learn. And when I got there, he was like, no, I don't want to sing that. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I started suggesting some songs. And he was like, no, don't want to sing that. No, don't want to sing that. And then he threw out one of the other songs. And I was like, how do you say that? I kind of know that. And then there was one of those things where I thought the lyrics were something that they weren't. I was like, I'm sorry, I don't understand you on the record. He didn't find that funny, but he was lovely. We rehearsed. I ended up singing I Saw Him First, or I Saw You First, with him, which was amazing. And I did go to the mall in Bloomington. Yes, I did. And I got myself, it was like a corduroy jacket, but looked like a jean jacket a little bit, but it was corduroy. And I remember being so nervous. And I was backstage in the green room, and they brought this other female singer. She had just gotten signed and everything. She really hasn't made the charts or anything yet. But at that time, and he was like, oh, great, nice to meet you. And I'm over there by the cheese plate or something. And he goes, well, I don't know. We haven't really thought about it, rehearsed anything. He goes, but maybe this song. She goes, oh, I know all your songs. And I was like, oh. And I think he saw me because I went, oh. And then I tried to play it cool. And I was like, so I was so nervous. I just was so nervous to do Farm Aid, and so nervous because he was one of my favorites. He is one of my favorites. And I remember walking out on stage. It was the only time I ever thought, I'm an adult now. I could get in a cab. I don't actually have to do this. And because I went missing, I went into the bathroom. I locked myself in the bathroom because the backstage was so busy and all these people, and I couldn't focus, and my heart was going, and I just was tripping out. So I went into the toilet, and I hid in there. And my manager at the time was like, is she coming out or what? So they were looking for me. And of course, I would never bail on a gig. So I came out. But the cool thing is I walked out and he had the same jacket on, just different color. And we again looked at each other like, hey. But it was the best experience. I mean, I often look back on that. And it was, again, he's one of my favorites, songwriter, as well as, just a great musician. I grew up listening to him. And, later on when I went backstage, he gave me a huge compliment. He goes, well, hey, if this doesn't even work out for you long term, you can always come on the road with me and sing with me in my band. And I went, well, you never know. You never know how careers go. But I took that as a huge compliment. And he's just a wonderful person. So that was one of the highlights of my career.
Such great questions. Tiffany, right? Such great questions.
Awesome questions, guys. Thank you.
And such generous answers. You are an amazing storyteller. Seriously, thank you for being so open and vulnerable with us today.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. I have to say one more thing. I know in all the merch store and everything, today I'm representing Children's Miracle Network, guys. So there are 3 jackets back there that are handmade. They're all one of a kind. We're raising money for Children's Miracle Network. Who else to do a jean jacket? Hello, then the girl herself. So that's my thing. I do sign them. They're the only ones I sign. You get a meet and greet with me. So if you're interested, please go to the autograph store and check out one of the jackets. You can try them on. But they are all one of a kind. They're all painted by me. And then I work with Hollywood Custom Design, who's my girlfriend. And she does a lot of the blinging out. So please take a look at them. If you're interested, you'll be helping all the children from Children's Miracle Network. So I really appreciate that.
Come on, I want everyone to stand up for Tiffany. Please.